Another major point of debate over the last decade or so, and again over the last several years, has been this kind of paradox of inner game versus outer game. Which do you want? Like, is it all about like doing the right thing, or is it all about feeling the right way, or is it all about the thing coming from the right place, right? Inner game, outer game. And it seems like a paradox. It seems like you can choose to focus on one or focus on the other. First thing I would say is there's no reason you can't focus on both. Even just on its face, on its surface, there's no reason you can't have good inner game and good outer game. So they're not mutually exclusive, right? There is no exclusivity there. But I actually want to go a step further here, and I want to say that actually inner game is in itself a form of outer game, okay? In the sense that if you want to change your inner game, that requires specific discrete steps and processes. And discrete steps and processes are almost by definition outer game, right? So for example, people will say, I want to work on my inner game, and then they'll give themselves some kind of a mission to go do this thing to get them desensitized to fear. Well, that mission is an outer game mission. You're developing a skill set and you're developing a process, right? And so inner game, at least good inner game, is action-based inner game. It's based on, I feel this way, I would be better off if I felt a different way, or I have this attitude or mindset, I'd be better off if I trained a different mindset. Well, you can try and just think your way into that mindset, and that doesn't work. That just puts you more in your head, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But the way that you can actually achieve a better mindset, better outlook, better view on life is actually through experience, because the things that we learn and believe, we learn through experience, right? If I had something in my hand and I were to drop it, you know that it's going to fall to the ground. You don't know that because of like good self-belief, or you don't know that because of a positive attitude. You know that because you've seen things fall to the ground over and over and over again since you were a small baby, right? And you've seen it over and over again, and it's been incredibly predictable, incredibly reliable, such that you know that it's not your opinion on the world, it's not your viewpoint on the world, it is the truth of the world as per your experience, right? And so the best inner game actually comes through experience, and the best inner game training actually comes through taking action and getting references, right? Also, the best inner game training, even for overcoming fears and stuff like that, comes from actually taking action and going through the motions of overcoming the fear, going through the motions of acting unafraid, etc. But the point is this: there is a process to inner game. The more that your inner game is this nebulous sort of like woo-woo, I have to feel a certain way, the more that you are a slave to your inner game. There's this concept in game called state. Right? And state is a very interesting concept. It basically means like the way that your mind is working. Are you flowing? Are you like present in the moment? Are you kind of at your best? Right? And the funny thing is, over the period of time I was learning game, for a long period of time, the word state was never mentioned in game. And when that was the case, nobody was ever out of state, because you can't be out of state if state doesn't exist. And so if you were in a bad mood, you just fucking stepped up and did it anyway, and you didn't make an excuse. And what happened then is you did the best you could, and you got some level of results in a bad mood, and then those results and the fact that you were taking positive action, you felt good about that action, would tend to get you in a good mood, and then you would actually hit state, except for you don't even know what that is yet, because the word hasn't been invented. But that's what would essentially happen. Now all of a sudden, fast forward to the time when like state exists, right? When it's been labeled and named, and it's useful to label it because it is a real phenomenon to an extent. But the problem is that as soon as you label it, now it becomes an excuse. Now, I have programs, years ago where I send a student and say, hey, go do that project. I want to get in state first. What? What? I want to get in state first? First of all, what kind of lame excuse is that you need to be in state to go talk to the girl? That's absolutely ridiculous. She doesn't need to be in state to talk to you. There is no possible thing you could think that's more of a low value, she's on a pedestal frame, than I can't even talk to her as I am right now, because I'm not enough as I am. I have to go do this convoluted thing to be enough for her. Meanwhile, she doesn't have to do anything to be enough for me. So that's fundamentally wrong on a lot of different ways. But secondly, I need to go get in state. How exactly are you planning on getting into state? Whatever your plan is, it's going to require action. It could be that you plan to get in state by doing a bunch of approaches. That's action, that's outer game. It could be that you plan on getting in state by dancing and like getting your physiology up. Well, guess what? That's action. That in a sense is actually a form of outer game. It's a form of execution on a plan and taking real actions in the real world, okay? Let's say you plan to do the next interaction and just joke around, fool around, and not care about the outcome and do that as an exercise. Well, guess what? That's also outer game. So all of the effective inner game techniques fundamentally come down to taking action, which means they fundamentally are still outer game solutions. And in fact, thinking about your inner game, thinking about your psychology, thinking about how you're thinking, literally is the definition of going inside your head. The best way to be outside your head actually is to be so focused on the real world, so focused on the girl, so focused on what you're doing, and so intent on what you're doing that you literally don't have any mental RAM left for being inside your head. And then it is literally impossible to be in your head, right? You are forcing yourself outside of your head, but again, you're doing it through action. So the point I want to make here is twofold. Number one, there is no paradox between inner and outer game. There's no reason you can't be good at both, number one. But secondly, inner game has to it its own outer game components, right? Whatever your inner game situation, there are action plans, there are action steps, there are things you can do, tangible physical things, tangible exercises that you can do, tangible processes, even if they're a thought process, that are still outer game in the sense that it is specifically, I am taking specific actions to get a specific result, right? And anything where you can't take specific actions to get a specific result, you're asking for things to be unpredictable. You're asking to be out of control in your approach, right? If you're relying on being in a good mood to do something, you have to wait around so you're in a good mood, or just hope that you happen to be in a good mood when the cute girl walks by. That's a really shitty way to live life, and that's a way of living life where you're putting yourself at effect in life instead of at cause, and you're actually viewing yourself kind of as a victim of circumstance, which is one of the worst philosophies you can possibly have towards game, all right? So you want to take charge of your life, you want to take action, and you want to view everything as something that you can take active, positive steps in order to improve at any given moment. And when you have that attitude, and then two, when you learn those steps, which I'm going to help you with throughout this course, you are going to have control over your results, you're going to have predictable results, and you're also going to have results that lead to a very smooth, very fluid learning process where you're in control every step of the way.